Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Artful Chiropractor Podcast. My name is Dr. Ray Daniels. This week, we've got the one and only Dr. Katie Schlein on the podcast. She was a huge influence in my journey and still is to this day. She was the one that shared with me Adjusting Ninjas, encouraged me to go check it out. She was a huge part of my process throughout school. She was always there for me. She was farther along, but no matter what she had going on, she always made sure to check in. So she was someone who I looked up to and I continue to look up to. And she is in the trenches. She was an associate doc. Now she's an independent contractor with visions of owning her own practice one day, and she's serving it up down in San Diego, and she has so many awesome lessons and takeaways in this episode. I really think you're going to enjoy this one. We talk about the deep connection that Dr. Katie has and how that has been cultivated over the years and how that serves her in her practice, and some takeaways that we can use from her and how she has learned that process, and then how we can apply it to the people that we serve. We dive into the ups and the downs of being an associate and an independent contractor, how she's growing, how she's evolving, and so much more. Dr. Katie was extremely involved while she was in chiropractic college. She was in Student Champions. That's when I first got to meet her. And she was also involved in Adjusting Ninjas. She facilitated deep into her later years in school, or later quarters in school. And she was also involved in all of the student council and all of the different aspects and ways to contribute back to her community and the school. And she was named the 2015 Student of the Year for her commitment to service and leadership within the community. Dr. Katie is constantly giving back in so many ways and is highly involved in various organizations throughout the profession, seminars that she's involved with, and is up to date with pediatric and prenatal wellness. She is all about taking care of moms and kiddos and families, but she's also involved with the LGBT community, and she's all about learning and trying to find the harmony or the balance with life. And I really think you all will enjoy this episode. So without further ado, welcome to the podcast, Dr. Katie Schlein. Dr. Katie Schlein, welcome to the Artful Chiropractor. So excited to have you on. It's been a long time coming.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ray. I am very pumped and honored to be here. So I'm looking forward to chatting and sharing a little bit.
Me too. This is going to be fun. And I know for our listeners, if they heard my podcast, they heard me drop your name. But you were a huge influence in my journey, through school. Definitely, like early on, getting me into ninjas. You were like, "Hey, you'd probably like this."
Someone did that to me, I think, at some point.
But then just like not really even like knowing me very well, and you were just like so helpful. Like I remember meeting you at the Student Champions weekend, and I'm like, wow, this girl's awesome. And then you were just like there for me. I'm like, she doesn't even really know me, but she's like willing to like connect and help me out. And then you told me about different things, and we were able to connect through school. So it's so cool to see like the full circle and be able to still connect with you.
Thank you. And the beautiful thing about where we went to school is I feel like I appreciate your words, but that is not an anomaly in the community and the culture. And so many people did that for me. And you just kind of get put into the fold, and that's part of the journey of being at Life West, which I'm always so excited to share about our alma mater in that way, because it is such a beautiful place.
Definitely. And it's crazy to think that like you were the first person to tell me about ninjas, and I obviously grasped and held on for a long time, and now doing a podcast.
I love it.
It's crazy. But so I'm thinking I'd like to start, you got your degree in psychology in your undergrad?
Yeah, correct.
So what kind of led you into that?
I think I have a very intense desire to understand people, and I think when I was little, I was really awkward and uncomfortable about it, but I had this intense desire to connect with other people. And as I got older, I learned the art in connecting instead of being uncomfortable and awkward and asking, maybe too intensive questions, but learned that process and getting to know people. And I as a kid at like my childhood like friend group, one of them nicknamed me Mouth actually. And just because I had this desire to get to know people and always talk to them and really learn their story. And I'm still to this day fascinated by people's stories. And I think the psychology behind why people do the way they do. And I love observing people. And my fiance now is actually a school psychologist. So I always love like her insight on what she sees and how she navigates things from a psychological perspective. It's just something that's always fascinated me.
That's really awesome. And I'm sure in the title somewhere of this podcast will be something about connection, because when people, they think of you, they think about your ability to connect with people and just like the massive amounts of empathy that you have for others and the ability to hold space. Did you have any experiences growing up that facilitated that within you, or was it something kind of just, I don't know, natural for you that you've always had?
I think there's always been, and I appreciate you saying that, and that is something that through chiropractic school, to be honest, I learned that was something I was really passionate about, and to kind of refine that process and holding space for others and really getting into tools and, different ways of communicating. But I believe that our childhood really shapes who we are. And I'm an only child. And from a young age, I think I always had a desire, I should say, to, like you say, connect with other people. But to be honest, I wasn't the most popular kid, and I was made fun of a lot. And I think that made me very sensitive to my own journey, but to other people's journeys, and trying to constantly remember that people have their own wounds and their own stories and their own perspectives on things. And you never know what's going on at home. And I had a unique process in high school. I came out at a very young age. I was a freshman in high school, and I went to a pretty conservative high school here in San Diego that, looking back, I think that really shaped just being okay with who I was on my own, and then being really sensitive to other people and going out of my way to try to connect with other people, because I think there were a few people that did that for me when I had my challenges in middle and high school. And I know for a fact that that's really shaped who I am as a person, and combining that with now so much that we learn in chiropractic school and just the other avenues in which you can observe or learn people or body language or anything. I mean, we look at posture like on day one of chiro school, but then you really learn posture and how that's associated with like personality type and emotion and ninjas, I think, helped refine that too, or we'll say kairos or whichever term you prefer. But yeah, I think a lot of my childhood for sure really shaped that part of me.
And it seems like, that process of coming out and, doing that at such a young age in a lot of ways, like just really forced you to like do some of that deeper work and get comfortable and like go through that process. So it just seems like you were able to, start that journey really early on, and all of us at some point have to go through it. But it seems like that was facilitated early on for you.
Yeah, my parents are really wonderful, and my mom's not around anymore. My dad is, but they were really, really supportive and always so communicative. And from a young age, I was taught to share what you're feeling. It's okay. You can acknowledge it. You don't have to fix it in this moment, but share what you're feeling. And that whole holding space, not that term, we'll say, was used in my family, but I feel like that entity and that idea of just sharing what you're feeling was really, really common from a very young age. And from there, I was able to feel comfortable to say, hey, I'm attracted to females. Like, what does that mean? And my parents are like, that's okay. Like, so it was just a very safe space all around. I'm really, really lucky that I had, and I have the parents that I have in the family too. My extended family was always really great. And I'll be honest, I don't think it was a surprise. I was a big athlete and a big tomboy as a kid. So it's not like it was like this 180
Right.
from my parents. But then again, for some parents, it takes a little time to come to terms with that. And I think that really shaped who I was, being secure and okay with. And I did lose some friends. But full circle, now I'm an adult in San Diego, and I'm friends with those people again, because it's okay, because everyone has their own journey and accepting things that are uncomfortable for them. And my parents were always really, really big proponents of like I said, sharing how you feel and being okay with who you are and being okay on the inside.
Mm,
And that's really, I think, made me comfortable with who I am. And yeah, just being okay with sharing the story
right. And
and doing
facilitate
it for other
that.
people too.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
that's, I think,
100%.
your, such a big strength that you have is just like people feel so like comfortable and like they just instantly trust you because of just like what you've been through and that ability that you have. And it's just really cool because it just rubs off on people too. Because like when you're around them, they're like, oh wow, like the way you can connect and hold space, and then it's just like gives other people permission. Um, how has that transition, from being in school and like learning to connect, and then now that you're in practice, learning to connect, are there different lessons that have happened along the way? Or has it just been a pretty smooth continuum of just learning to connect with people and hopefully in obviously not trying to take on too much of that because that's another thing I imagine you have to go through is like your ability to go deep with people and not try and like take that on too much energetically.
I I think the biggest thing, I will say lesson or just journey and practice is a big portion of being a chiropractor is you really get to know people. And for me, I get excited and I get excited to see certain practice members and what have you because you know as a chiropractor you're a part of their life and for me having when people stop care or take a break or quick care they decide to like do something else not only not take it personal on hey it's not like you're not good enough or I don't value chiropractic enough or all the stories you can tell yourself and then on the second level of not seeing them anymore and feeling that like really deep connection with someone maybe that you shared but then in the beginning of practice you could tell yourself all the stories you're not good enough or you didn't create the good enough space or relationship or anything it is and maybe it's not even that it's just
Mm-hmm.
is what it is. So I think that's been my challenge in just letting people go and gratefully I'm in a pretty high volume office where the energy is a lot of people so there is that capacity for me to just kind of not move on, but like be okay with it and not lament and to get too involved because I can't. Like I can't
Right.
because it takes away from me serving other people and doesn't good. It's not a good thing for my business. It's not a good thing for me as a chiropractor. It's not a good thing for me mentally. So it's just that journey and being okay with not getting attached to those people. And then I think you said you touched on experiences potentially of being in practice. I know I mean, being in school, NVC, nonviolent communication was huge. And I wouldn't say I live in that bubble, in that paradigm constantly, but I am very aware of when people speak and if a need's not being met and not necessarily working in that language unless I'm talking to someone that's well versed in that language, but being aware of what's not being met and maybe just asking the person instead of the phrase of, oh, can I make a request? Like some people really don't respond well to that language if they're not, which is also another lesson I learned. Like I got really involved with it in school, thanks to Lance and Justin Jovelius. They were great. And Dan too. But or I believe Garrett, he goes by now, but nonetheless, being in that, we'll say bubble and then trying to kind of blend it so people aren't like, whoa, how are you speaking right now? Like, this is weird.
Right.
And
Sound
just
like a
say like,
robot.
yeah, like, what can I do to meet your needs better? Instead of like, what needs are not being met? Is it recuperate? Like going through this. When people are not in that world, they get kind of like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, you're kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the big needs is, I mean, in my practice, like at a reeval, is like, there anything we can do to meet your needs better? Like, that's a great question. And I think it's for people, they really check in. They're like, no, this place is great. Or like, oh, my schedule is like, I'm like, okay, great. Easy remedy. We're real casual here. If you're on time-ish, we make it work. Like,
Right.
because I think people think chiropractic appointments and they think, oh, doctor's office, I have to be like really on time. And like, yeah, we'd like you to be on time, but we're pretty casual at our office where if you're like 5 minutes late or 5 minutes early, like you get checked,
Mm.
So
Do you have a process of checking in when you've had someone drop off of care or, you got more attached to a patient that was coming in and they left and you start to ask yourself, what did I do? or was it something that I did? And then obviously you've shared that you can, get around to like, that's their process. Like I can't get attached to it.
Right.
But are there times when you like sit down and reflect, or do you have any type of process around that?
I think it's funny you bring this up. I had a great interaction with someone over Thanksgiving, and I ended up coming in. It was an emergency kind of situation. She found me online, or she found our office online, and I was available. I came in when our office was closed, and we ended up talking for like an hour and a half. And she was great, and we just connected on so many things. And then she came back for her report, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm in. Like, I want to get my family on this." Da, 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 da. And then she never came back. Like, I never heard from her. And it's always something else. It's rarely you. I don't want to sound, egotistical, but if you do the right things and you love your people, it's really just they have their lives, And I called her actually today. It's funny you bring this up. And I figured something family-wise happened, and it did. She had some family emergency, and someone died in the family, and it was this big rigmarole. And unfortunately, this stress in her life was a big thing. And then she just said, she shared a little bit financially, not sure they can all afford it. I said, "Great, I'm here when you're ready." And she's like, "Yeah, so I'll probably call later this week and come in." And I was like, "Great. Taryn will take care of you when you call. Talk to you then." And I just left it at that instead of like, "Oh, let's get you back in. What day's good for you?" Like the push off kind of like talk about sometimes in chiropractic, or just being real unattached.
Right.
And that's I think when you're young in practice, I think I've heard Dr. Mark, my mentor who I work with, say this, like you get really attached, and the unattached is actually way better because it's a way different energy exchange. And I think my process, to answer your question around when people drop out of care, maybe change chiropractors or whatever it is, sometimes if I have a really good connection with them, I'll check in with them. I'll write a note later. Typically, no matter what, I'll either ask, someone in the office, maybe they had a really good connection with one of the CAs, or I'll ask them to write a note on a certain day to tell me like, "Hey, check in with this person." So I usually check in with them a couple weeks later, a month later. And then, social media now, like a lot of them know someone I know or something. And once in a while, like I might message them and say like, how are you? How's your family? And let it go and that be that, but never try to bring up chiropractic or anything like that, because at the end of the day, they just want to feel cared and loved for.
Right.
And I think for me to let it go, I do that and I just let it go. And I have to, in my brain, I'm really working on training like next. Like, great, opens up space for a new family to come in the practice and experience chiropractic. Just reframing it and constantly reframing it instead of negatively thinking all the things. You miss a connection, you miss a referral source, you miss collection, like all the business things, personal things, all the things together. You just gotta let it go and move on. And I think sometimes I'll like be in a room in the office and I'll visually think about them. And then when I walk through the next room to our open adjusting space, I like let it go in that moment. So kind of like bookend it a little bit.
Right. And at the end of the day, they're always going to remember how they felt with their interaction with you. Even if they decided to leave and they had to do some other things, they're like, "Oh, that person, they really cared. And when I'm ready, I will most likely go back."
Right. And there's still, you have to remember from a business perspective, they're still a referral source, even if they're not under your care.
Right.
Because they had a good experience.
Yep.
Either I don't know, but I'm proud to say our office and the team that we have, we rarely have people that leave for bad experiences. And if they have bad experiences, we do our best to remedy them in all those sorts of ways. And a lot of that is just listening.
Right.
Like you and I know from NBC and things like that. So
definitely. So Katie, you played sports like you mentioned, and obviously there's the obvious like attributes that you learn from sports of work ethic, teamwork, all of those different things. Mm-hmm. Are there any that you've had to maybe unlearn as you are in practice at this point?
I was, thinking about things potentially that you might bring up. And I know a lot of ninjas were athletes before, because it is just like a really easy blend. A lot of chiropractors have been athletes. The competitiveness for sure, with, numbers game, comparing collections, business, all the things. And there's a lot of males in chiropractic. And and maybe this is my brain only, but I assimilate that with like a very male energy, very numbers driven. And while I am a female, I have a competitive male energy from maybe being an athlete or whatever you want to call it. So being competitive, 100%, having to let that go and not worrying about the other, so my situation, I imagine you know, but for others that are listening, they may not know, I'm an independent contractor with another independent contractor in an office that is run by our mentor. And he's been in office 17 years. He's had a practice, very established. And then us two, we graduated together. Dr. Boris and I, we both went to Life West, both ninjas, and we're both independent contractors. We both have our separate practice in that practice. So yeah, letting go of competition and numbers and it not making myself mean what I am. And I think in athletics, you're measured by your success, by points, team that you make, accolades, all the things. And in chiropractic, you're measured often by collections and numbers. How many people you see? What'd you collect this month? What's your bottom line? What's your, patient PVA, patient visit average? All these things. When if that's not where you want it to be, you can't take that on as like, oh, I'm not a good chiropractor. I'm not good connecting, all the things. And right now I'm in a space with the 2019 intentions, whatever you want to call it. I call them intentions, not goals per se, but intentions of just being peaceful with where I'm at. And knowing that I'm a great connector and knowing that I'm a great chiropractor and knowing that I love what I do and I love my people and the abundance will come, and not checking all these boxes and numbers and all the things and creating my journey and process in the office that way.
What has helped with the competitiveness? Was there a moment that like shifted and you were like, okay, I'm dropping this? Or I imagine it might have been a gradual process. Or was there, because I imagine a lot of our listeners are going to be going through that or are going through that. So it's like, okay, you
100%.
got through that, but like what really was the game changer that allowed you to kind of let that competitiveness side kind of go?
I think realizing the difference, there were a couple times that I had really great months and it was like a great feeling for a couple days and then it ended. It's like a drug. Like it goes away. And then when you feel really shitty or crappy, am I allowed to curse on this?
Yeah, you're good.
Sorry. You feel really shitty about your numbers that month or your comparison to another doc or your mentor in the office because you want to do well because you respect him a lot. And then you're like, oh, 2 days later, you're back to where you are mentally and you've shifted. So it's always fleeting. It's never permanent. And what's permanent are the values that you can attach yourself to and that you pride yourself in and who you are as a chiropractor, business owner, person, whatever order that you want to say those in. So I think when I've realized that that feeling is very fleeting and it goes away, it makes it a lot less easy to attach to it and care about the competition.
Right. And it's like you said, it's such a roller coaster when you're attached to one of those type of measurements.
100%.
And I even notice it too in the office when, someone's doing great and they're responding well to care, and then someone's not having maybe the results that they would like. And it's like, if I get attached to that outcome, it's like a roller coaster from visit to visit. I'm like, I cannot do this. I have to let this go.
A part of you is like there with them and hoping they like love it. So they're not going to say like, oh, I'm going to take a break. And I realized too, when I became an independent contractor, I always had it in my brain sometimes. Like I was always scared that they were going to come in and say like, I'm taking a break. And this fear, like I was just in fear all the time because all my, worry about my collections instead of just enjoying their company, enjoying getting them clear and checked. And then, and it's crazy is the people you think are going to quit don't. And sometimes the people that you think like, oh, they're going to be under care forever for years. They do, so it's like someone tells me they like lost their job. And in my brain, I'm like, oh, they're going to quit next month or take a break. And they don't.
Right.
Because like you can't exactly. So you can't get too involved in the story and I can't speak to you, but I'm telling myself, I can't get wrapped up in where they're at, where their head's at, where there's not. Like they clearly value your care, so they're still here. Good for you, duh. Like you do good shit. Like why wouldn't they be? So it's like just reminding yourself. And again, this fleeting roller coaster. And Dr. Mark tells me all the time, he's like, hey, welcome to being a business owner. Like this is my life too, but you just learn to live with it and you learn to go with it. And people drop off and come back like years later and it just is what it is. So
Right. It makes me think of, I had this guy come in and it was like his second day, and I was doing like the report of findings, or we call it like new patient orientation now. And I get done and he's like talking to my sister who works up front. He's just like, "Yep, that was a sales pitch." And I was like, "Oh, wow." And then but yeah, he started care and then stuck with it. And now he's been like the most consistent, and we have a really, really good relationship.
Yeah.
And like, he was so skeptical, and in the very beginning, like thought that was like super salesy. And it was just crazy to see that transformation with someone who I was like, he's not gonna like get into care, and he's not gonna enjoy it or any of that. So it's funny. You can't just, the expectations that you have for people are typically not what happens.
Yeah. And I think I've managed to take care of a lot of law enforcement officers, which has been great. I love it. And I have a lot of males and females that have guns that protect me, apparently. So, but there's one guy who I definitely thought like he wasn't going to buy chiropractic in the beginning. I went to do a health talk in the morning at the academy. He came in, he didn't really have anything going on. He was just like, I get it. Like, this is, preventative for me. And now he got his mom, his dad. He came in the other day. He was like, "You think my grandpa, like, he's on a lot of meds. Like, can I bring him in?" I was like, "Of course." Like, he's like a little chiropractic warrior. He gives my card to everyone he works with. Like, he just gets it and he's on board, and I did not peg him for someone that would be like, "Oh yeah, I'm in." And then the people that are all in the beginning, they're all in because they're all in everything in their life. So they drop out of care because they're just like one of those rah-rah people that, get wrapped up in connecting with our office and me or whoever in the office. And then they got so many other things they're doing in their life that they don't make it a priority, So sometimes like the stoic ones are the best ones.
Right.
So they commit, they like really think and like examine what they value and their budget, and then they commit and then they're in. So.
Yeah. And that just goes to the point of just always, really not trying to prejudge people and just connect with them, like what we've been talking about this whole time, and just really, hold space for them and their journey and their process. And you have no idea what could come of it. Yeah. Katie, you are probably, one of the, I would say, most relatable for a lot of the listeners, right? Because you were an associate in the beginning, right? Yep. And then now you're an independent contractor, and you do have visions, I think, of opening up your own. So it's just like that process it's so fresh for you, and it's one of the most, I would say, uncomfortable experiences coming out of school, just trying to figure out how to deal with all that. Kind of maybe share a little bit with your experience going through an associate to an independent contractor, and then the visions that you have for the future. What would you share with listeners who are like just intimidated as hell by that process?
First thing I'd share is don't judge a job title based on what you think or value yourself as. To be honest, there were points in school where I told myself I would never be an associate coming out of school because I felt confident in my abilities to adjust. I felt confident in my abilities to speak chiropractic and connect with people. And associate was, quote, below me, like whatever I wanted to be judgy about at the point. And to be honest, like being an associate is great. I'm a new business owner, and there are days, I'm not going to lie, that I'm like, God, I wish I had that associate salary coming to me at the end of the month. Like there are values to it. So first of all, if you're in a situation, really assess your needs and do not choose an associate, IC, open your business, whatever, because of what it'll look like on the outside or anything like that. Like, it's okay to be an associate. It's okay to be a part-time associate. It's okay. It's even okay when you start your own business to get a side job that's not chiropractic. Okay. Like that is another thing that I had to have my own like mental process around. And to be honest, I did really well in clinic in school. I was very involved. I went to be an associate for Dr. Mark, and it was an amazing experience. I love the office energy. Life full circle. I had plans to go overseas, and then he came and offered me a great situation, and I decided to take it and stay. And it was great. But I think you get to a point when you're an associate, and every associateship is different. I had a lot of responsibility, and Dr. Mark trusted me a lot, and that is, I think, rare. I got a lot of freedom, and it was great because he's a great mentor, and he really creates a space gives you a framework of how the office works. But in the ROF, he said, no, like, I want you to say this, but if you need to go off script and come up with this, that, and the other, like, I want it to feel natural. Mm-hmm. He didn't micromanage me. He just said, you feel comfortable? Great, go do it. Let me know if you need me to go in there and clean it up. Like, that's how it was. And it was great. Right. It wasn't like micromanage. I wasn't nervous. Like, he was so great. I was nervous with the patient, but not with him. And I think down the road, I built up a little bit of a mini practice, we'll say, within his, of people that I had brought in myself and vice versa. And I got to a point where I just wanted autonomy. I wanted to create my own price structure and then have more ownership of what I was doing. Because while he has a great, successful practice, there are a lot of things that are super congruent with him and I. And then there's some things that we just do it a little differently, and that's okay. But I wanted to be able to do that with more freedom and not feel like my responsibilities as his secondhand person were being not fulfilled. So again, he's a great mentor, and he's never had 2 independent contractors in the office. And I came to him and asked him if he'd be open to doing it. And he was like, I've never done it, but we'll figure it out. And we did, and we have, and it's been really great. And his ability to be flexible and adapt, I'm really grateful for, because he could have said, no, I need an associate. And I would have stayed and not maybe been as happy. Or I would have left and not been in a fun practice where I really enjoy going to the office every day. Fast forward, that was about a year ago. I'm coming up on about a year of being on my own. And it was smooth. Like, it was a transition where he said, okay, I want to make sure you feel good going out on your own. One thing he did was he let anyone that I brought in because of me, not because of like an event he paid for, that I brought in from being from San Diego, or a talk that I did that he didn't pay for the lunch or anything from, he let me keep as my own, which is great, like a great starting point. There were a couple months of transition where I worked still a couple shifts and a couple blocks in the week for him. And then I had my own shifts. So again, it gave me we negotiated like a little bit of salary and then a little bit of percentage split. So I kind of was able to go in a way where it wasn't like, oh, I'm making a salary every month and whoa, I'm making nothing now. Like, and in a smooth transition. And he was like, you tell me when you're ready. Like, it wasn't like, Katie, you're on the clock. You gotta, like, he knew I was working hard, but he was like, when you're ready, you just tell me when you want to go all on your own. I was like, great. So we came up with the plan, and we hired a third CA to help support 3 doctors instead of an associate. And luckily, again, our CAs are great. We have 2 very seasoned CAs who are able to do consults and, are basically chiropractors without adjusting. Like, they've been in chiropractic forever, like 15 and 17 years with Dr. Mark before, with other offices. So they know chiropractic. So that transition has been really seamless. What hasn't been seamless is the ups and downs of being on your own and being a business owner, which is always fun. It's always a fun time, and you always learn things. That mental side of really like disconnecting of what you maybe have in your bank account or what you have made that month, and connecting to like just loving what you do. And before I walk in the office, Michael Halloran, the guy from DE that I love, always says, like, God, send me all the people I can serve. And I say that when I walk in, and just saying that makes me feel so at peace.
I love that. And so a couple points, going back to just how I think important it is to be able to be in a situation like yours that is like meeting so many of your needs, and you getting to explore, and now you really kind of have your own practice within Dr. Mark's, but then you're able to look and see how the office is run and be able to like what you love and what resonates with you. And then some things you're like, I'd probably do that differently. I think it's so powerful to have that type of context, being early on in practice, so you can really start to create what that is that you want to eventually, if it's not perfect.
100%. And I think Dr. Mark's system works. It's very congruent for him. And when you're in an office, you have to, I think something I had to really check in with myself about is when you're in school, especially in ninjas and kairos, we always talk about like visualize what you want your practice to be, write it down, all the things. What I would tell people maybe in school or coming out is visualize that, do all that, but be flexible if it's not that. Because as chiropractors, or as people with personalities that are very maybe extreme, intense, whatever phrase you want to call it, very all in, you can get disappointed if it's not that way. And the ability to be flexible and be open to other possibilities and other, like you said, blends of if you're in an independent contractor in an office where the energy is very centered around something that's been there 18 years, you can't come in there and try to change it and do it your way. You have to figure out what's really, really important to you and what you're willing to potentially maybe blend and mold to make your own and may be more congruent with your practice, but then stay on the pace of the office or how the office works and all the things. Our office is very high volume. If I wanted to come in and do 15-minute appointments, that wouldn't work with our office because our office, people come in and out, and they come in and out when they please, to be honest. Like,
Right.
their appointment's at 4:30, they show up at 5, and it's just fine. Like, that's just how our office works. So I think that art and being able to be flexible is really, really important in whatever situation you're in until it's your own. And even when it's your own, you got to be flexible.
Right. Yeah. Huge lesson. I really, really like that. And, going back to some of the lessons that you're learning as, I guess, you're really your own business owner within the practice.
Yeah.
Are there, because I know that you have had to have thought of a lot of them before they came, just because of your experience and your involvement and, relationships with a lot of other chiropractors. You kind of knew the mountain of what it looked like. Are there any lessons that just blindsided you in a sense?
I think as a chiropractor, I love chiropractic, and I had a lot of things my first couple months about doing a couple odd jobs to make a little extra money. And it was like I was ashamed of it. Mm-hmm. And anyone listening, it is your journey. It is your process. You do not need to justify what you're doing to anyone. Now, if you're going to do something with the mindset of like, oh, maybe I won't be a chiropractor, then that's your journey too. And that's okay. My mindset was like, make this money so I can market it for chiropractic, make this money so I can put it back into chiropractic. And yes, you can always think like, oh, you could just go find more new patients. While I 100% agree with that, if an extra $500 in your bank account is going to make you a little less anxious when you go into that ROF, I'm okay with that. So whether it's like covering another chiropractic office, I started doing that. I'm not in the office Monday afternoon. And if people in San Diego needed coverage, and I have my name now, like a couple people still hit me up. And they still need it, it's like a couple $100. That's easy. And you're still being a chiropractor. And you use that money mentally to put back into your own practice. If it's catering, working in a restaurant, whatever it is, you just do it to make it work, because in the beginning you got to sacrifice. And also too, you have to remember there's so many other jobs out there that you can do when your office is closed. So yeah, you can go get new patients and all the things. And I get new patients at bars, everywhere I go, I talk chiropractic. Mm-hmm. But if you want to go cater and meet some people and just be off for a little bit and not have to worry about this exchange around energy of being under care, it's great. So I did that through the holidays to make a little money and put it back in the practice. So I don't think that's a negative thing. Another lesson that...
Real quick on that. I just think it's super important. There's just a lot of topics in the early part of practice that can be shameful. And whether that's, finding something else that can, support, what you're talking about right now, just being able to have some money to add in or just help you financially or whatever it is. And then, I think there's a lot of chiropractors who get out of school and they even have the thoughts of oh my gosh, I can't believe was I meant to do this? And you start second guessing yourself and
oh yeah, me too.
Questioning chiropractic. And it's just I think realizing that's okay. That's normal on some level. Mm-hmm. And when people really start to seclude themselves and retract, I think that's, unfortunate, because if they really reach out a little bit, they can realize that so many people are going through something similar.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, anyone that listens to this, you can always reach out to me, even if I've never met you or don't know you. Instagram's usually the best. Facebook, the Messenger, I hate that app on my phone for whatever reason. I just never look at it. But Instagram, I would say, is the best. Dr. Katie Schlein is my Instagram. But again, yeah, it goes back to shame. And Brene Brown, one of my favorite authors, talks about shame in relationships and how it shows up through your life. You don't have to be afraid and shameful of what you're doing to make it work. And if you justify, in my brain, I justified, what can I do where chiropractic could come up in the conversation and I could still get my card out if they ask for it. Okay, drive for Lyft, easy. Go bartend, easy. And you always can throw it in. I'm doing this. I have my own practice. I'm doing this, make a little extra money, whatever it is, and I had an experience. It's really interesting. I went to, like I said, a very conservative school, and Dr. Eva Tang, I shared this with her because we went to the same school growing up, and I was at this very, very nice Christmas party, and I was bartending through this catering company that I got hooked up with, and these people walked up, and me being me, like, I didn't even think twice, and I recognized them, and they were parents of a kid I went to school with, and I said, "Hey, are you so-and-so?" And they're like, "Oh yeah." They kind of like, they were like, "How do I know you?" And I was like,
Right.
"Oh, Katie." And they're like, "Oh yeah, Parker." And then they're like, "What are you doing here?" And it was like this moment of like, oh, let me justify. I'm a chiropractor. I'm like really accomplished, I promise. But I'm doing this right now, and I had this like experience that I felt like I had to justify what I was doing. And then I was like, okay, Kitty, you are where you are. Like, I get it, but you don't have to justify. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, totally.
So it was a very unique, and Dr. I was like, oh girl, I get it. Like, and we went to a very similar school where like these people are, they have very great jobs and they live in a culture, surrounded by wealth and money, and that's the reality they live in. And for whatever reason, I felt in the moment that I had to justify what I was doing.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm sharing with you and on a podcast right now about
Right.
it,
And so many people are going to be like, thank you. Like,
right.
Okay,
and there's
cool.
nothing wrong with being a bartender. Like, if you love doing that, you love people, you love making drinks, like, that's great,
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's really powerful just to get that headspace around the shame of different challenges early on in practice and realize that there's a lot of people going through the same thing, and to reach out and connect will really help. And because the retracting and secluding yourself because you think you're the only one going through that or second guessing things, then that can totally burn out your chiropractic fire, right? And we all hope that that's not what people have to go through, right? I mean, of course, some people's journey are their journey, but to reach out, is definitely the answer, I think, on that one.
100%. And then you create community and connections where, you're going to reach out to someone and they're going to be feeling good in the similar space in their journey. And then they're going to have a moment where they're feeling maybe low and they're going to reach back out to you and you're feeling good. And you kind of pull people through, just like at Life West or other experiences that you have, or a team or anything like that. You just pull people through, and you're having like a rough week 8, like 9 finals, you just can't do it.
Right.
So it's just a part of it.
So
it's
true.
a part of the journey, and being honest about with yourself and with others.
Definitely. So going back, you mentioned your first big lesson. You were about to go into your second one, I think, before I cut you off, but I don't even know if that's still on your mind.
No. It can be on my mind. I think the other big lesson would be to not get caught up with what other people are doing. And every business owner in the beginning, and I think it depends on what city you're in, but in San Diego is a very metropolitan, very packed with a lot of health conscious things, we'll say. Cryotherapy, yoga, Pilates, like everything you can think of. It's a very health conscious city, and it's very easily you attract a lot of attention when you're a healthcare provider on social media, and all these people message you about this, that, and the other, and da-da-da-da-da. And then you follow all these people, maybe other chiropractors, and you see their ads, or you see like what they're doing, or they're doing this health talk there, what have you. And it's great to sit down face to face and connect and say, like, what are you doing? Like, I want to know how marketing is going, because you're doing it on your own. But if it's in a space of, this is going to help me, not make me feel worse about what I'm not doing.
Right.
So be very specific in like reaching out to someone or a colleague and say, hey, I heard you did this health talk at this place. Like, can you give me some pointers and how you got into that place? Instead of like, oh, what are you doing? And you want to check out the competition, and then it's going to make you feel worse about yourself because you're not doing what they're doing, or vice versa. And again, just reminding yourself that like everyone's Instagram is their highlight reel.
So true.
Yeah. So I think that's really when you're scared in the beginning, and you're, maybe in sympathetic mode more often than not, and you're having like those wounds from chiropractic school again around test anxiety, but now it's more anxiety of, what I'm not doing in marketing and all the things. You also have to remember too that that stuff costs money. So do the free shit. There's
Right.
so much easy free shit out there. Like going to a coffee shop or giving your card out or give your card, like I forget. It's so simple. Just give your card to the people that you take care of. And give your card out at the bar. You start talking to someone, they see your keychain, your little atlas. That's a great conversation starter. Let me tell you, I've gotten from that.
That's
It's
so
easy.
awesome.
Like that's free.
Right.
Like, like you don't need to go spend money on like all these Facebook ads and all the things, and there's all these companies out there that charge you like an arm and a leg to do it. And I'm not saying they're bad. Like they're great companies. And if you have the capital to do it and you want to do it, then great. But in the beginning, if you don't, like you just have to be really resourceful in what you do and how you market and go from there.
Definitely. Yeah. And in terms of marketing and getting out into your community and building tribes, and have you found that just connecting one-on-one, handing out your cards, like doing that more often than not is kind of what has been, the best for you?
I think what I realized is meeting someone for coffee one time is not going to get you referrals. Like that in the beginning, when I was at Dr. Mark's associate, there were Tuesday, Thursday mornings. We were not in the office. We were just there in the afternoon. So I always in my brain would go work out and set up some sort of networking coffee. And I started doing a lot of different people. Instead, I think looking back now, and it took time, I think over like there'd be here and there people would, send people, but I think it's more about not the number of people you have in your Rolodex or like the amount of contacts. It's more about like the quality of who the connection is. And I think I just got in that mode of meeting as many people as possible, which is really important. But now I'm more specific about who I'm meeting and then going back to the people I'm already connected to and reconnecting with them. I have this great woman who was connected to me through another chiropractor in San Diego, Dr. Bo Casey. He connected me with a patient of hers just because he thought we would click, like soul to soul. And she's awesome. And she's a pediatric psychiatrist, but very holistic. And she's great. And I've referred her people. She's referred me people. And her family comes in now. And she's just like someone I really enjoy as a person. And I would love to go to coffee with her because she's so great, not because I'm trying to get people out of it. The other thing too is reaching out to people and connecting with them to figure out how you can support them, not because you want referrals. Like figure out how to get involved in their network. Ask them, are they doing an event? Is there a way you can support it? Giving them a gift certificate. Like people think these gift certificates are awesome for like a free first visit that does not include an adjustment. It's just the exam, like the first visit.
Yeah.
And people are so grateful. And it's great. Like you donate your time. Like maybe you can't donate money. You donate your time and you invest in their practice or their business or whatever it is. And you ask how to get involved with them. And then they think of you when they're having an event and they want you to be involved, or you just get to know them better and figure out how you can support them. That's what creating a tribe is about. It's not about connecting with as many people as possible so you can get referrals. And I think in the beginning, I was trying to connect with as many people so I could learn people and really try to learn like, okay, if someone needs acupuncturist, I know this person. If someone needs this, I need this. Like, and that's really important in the beginning for sure. But over time, you kind of you figure out who it is that you vibe with most. And then you invest in those relationships for the long term.
And I think that's a really important takeaway is, finding those people or, businesses that you really do jive with and connect with. And even if you never got a referral from them, it would still fill you up on some level that you were supporting them because you like really enjoyed what they're doing and connected. I think if you do that more often and focus on, those people and those businesses, then it's just going to be way better. And of course, there's going to be naturally referrals from that. And then you're surrounding your practice with people that are referred by people who you connect with. So it's just like it really
100%
makes that your whole experience in your office that much better because you're with people that you really want to serve.
100%. And the other thing too, to try to remember is you're in a practice, you see multiple people a day. Like there's a lot of people that have jobs that do not see as many people as you do. So I've connected practice members with practice members when one person has a small business and they're looking for an assistant or a job or what have you. And then I'll be like, let me think about it. Like I have someone in my office that will be a great fit. Like, just let me think. And they didn't even come to you to ask you, do you know anyone? You just asked like, oh, how's your business doing? And they brought it up. So if you're always thinking like, how can I connect and support even your practice members better in their lives or whatever they're looking for, then people will come to you and say, can I have a stack of your cards to give out? Like, you don't even have to ask. And
Right.
it's not with the intention of trying to give them to give out cards. It's just, you just want to connect with people so you can support them in what they're doing.
So true. Okay. Taking a left turn here, Katie.
Left turn.
So going forward, I mean, this is one of my, most favorite questions to ask is, what are you most excited about as it relates to your art? And the way I really define art is just like your expression of whatever that looks like. Of course, it could be the adjustment, but it could be your communication, how you connect with people, all the different aspects of that. It could be business. Like, what are you most excited about going forward for yourself? And then second question would be just, what do you think is possible for the profession as a whole?
I'm most excited about in regards to the art is how artistically I'm able to create my own identity in owning my own business and being, we touched on this before a little bit, but congruent to what's really important to me. And then the artistic way of blending it with what's already present in our office and making it vibe and work in an environment that may or may not be always 100% me, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. We're ninjas and we think, oh, we get to like play whatever music we want and we get to do woo-woo music. But maybe you're working in an office where like the guy who owns the office for 18 years plays tropical house or like chain smokers, and it's a different energy. So you got to adjust. So, as like being with Dr. Mark and Dr. Bo and like Ricky Tierney as me is more important to me than playing some freaking music, So it's like being able to adapt and really value what I do and be proud of what I'm doing in the environment that I have and melding that art together.
That's
is
awesome.
The art that I'm really excited about. What's possible for the profession? Oh God. I think so many things on a lot of levels. One, I think our generation is very, I don't know if tonal is the right word, but just more like whole body based chiropractic. I think a generation before us was very structural based. And I don't know if the opposite of structural is tonal, but I think our approach is very tonal based where, we ask these questions about like, what needs aren't getting met in your life and how is that playing the emotional part of subluxation and touching on that and really bringing that into people's care with network or zone or whatever it is. There's a lot of techniques that really address that. And I'm not, saying that you have to do that technique to address it, but I'm saying what's possible is our generation really shifting the tone of chiropractic in the profession and what the second visit with a practice member looks like. Because a lot of, I think, offices and a lot of our mentors, that second visit really looks like structure, x-ray, curve, degeneration, which is very valid and explains what the spine and the nervous system does, if not under chiropractic care, 100%.
Right.
But there is a more, I think, congruent model and language around chiropractic that I think a lot of our profession is going, especially with, people that you and I associate with, especially through ninjas and Kairos and that community, in trying to educate more about children getting checked, pregnancy, starting them younger and why. And I think you can't really talk about degeneration and curves in a child. I mean, you can, but that's not really congruent. So I think forward, really creating a different paradigm around what chiropractic is.
I love that. And that's definitely always been the big draw for me with like kids and pregnant moms. It's just like, that is where you can really shift, I think, paradigms to the greatest level. I mean, you look at, it was an old example, but it's like dentistry. It's like kids get their teeth checked and cleaned. Like it's just part of it. And it's just like, that it would be just so cool to have that, to just have kids. It's like, that's just what we do.
Yep.
And then hanging around, someone, like you and chiropractors who are just like have such a big vision. It's like growing up in that space is so different than how a lot of kids are growing up. So I love that, answer that you provided. And just to reflect a little bit on, finding your art and being able to express that in another office. is definitely, a similar challenge with me. And there's just so many things that you love, but at the same time you're like, oh yeah, I would probably do this a little bit different, or this would probably resonate with me a little bit more. And you kind of have to work through that. And I'm really grateful, like the docs that I'm with, they're always kind of like checking in and wanting to encompass the vision of the other docs in the office. Because even, for you, one day you're going to open up, your practice and have that beautiful space that you've always created. But then at some point, I imagine you're going to want to bring on someone else, and that they're going to be going through the same thing that you're going through. So it's just like, how do you, create something that encompasses the vision of somebody else, knowing that there's all these little things, that you can see and be like, oh, I will do this way, or this would be this way,
Yeah.
So that's like it's a big challenge.
It is. And I think there's great book. I think it's called Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg, I believe. You're a big Audible guy, so you could correct me if you know that.
You're right.
Okay. But they talk about how Febreze like really marketed themselves. And I think Febreze I think it was like an antibacterial thing. And they realized that people cared more about how they smelled than like the germs. So they marketed it as a scent, and then like tried to pair it with something else, just like dentistry. Like you always pair with probably going to bed. So creating this habit, and then, there's a lot of people that are doing more membership-based practices where it is a habit. And that's, I think, where the future, even Dr. Mark, my mentor that I work with, he says like in 10 years, like chiropractors won't do insurance, he doesn't think, cause it doesn't pay enough, and it's symptom-based, and trying to really make it a habit and affordable and a monthly thing. And we're millennials, like people operate on monthly budgets in our generation and monthly subscriptions. No one has cable anymore. My dad thinks it's crazy that we don't have cable. Like, why would we have cable?
Right.
So it's being like this monthly habit. And there's been some great people in the Bay that do membership practices. I know Autumn Gore is a big membership person, and there's a great Facebook group for it. And that's my vision and my practice model that I'm currently incorporating in an office that isn't that, and that's okay. Finding that beautiful art.
But it's just amazing. I mean, you just have, you have that space and time to learn and compare of how you would like to do things. And like it's such a cool place to like continue to develop what you're trying to create. It is. And you're not like in the immediate fire of like having to do it now,
And I was lucky as an associate. Dr. Mark was like, whatever you want to do marketing wise, you do it. And I would do health talks, and I would do events and all the things, and he would support it and pay for it. And some of them worked and some of them didn't. And that was really, I was blessed in that way to have that opportunity. And I hope to one day do that for the same for an associate.
Definitely. All right, Katie, let's jump into the quick fire round.
Great.
And I'll go through the ones that are jumping out at me. But at this point, how do you decide who you want to learn from? And I know it's a pretty broad question, but I mean, it could be related to chiropractic, how you want to learn a little bit more, or even just business, personal, like all of that. What's your decision process look like in terms of self-development? Because we know that sometimes you get so burnt out of it at sometimes you're just like, I need a break from all that. And we've had those discussions before. Yeah. So I'm just kind of curious to check in where you're at now.
Presently, I think because I am engaged, someone that has a successful marriage or a partnership that I admire is something that I'm typically very drawn to, especially if they're a business owner, and learning that balance, and especially if their partner is not a business owner, because that's currently Lindsay and I's equation.
Right.
And learning and wanting to learn just how they balance that and how they do that. And if they have kids too, and like that, how they do it all. That's someone I'm typically very drawn to. It doesn't have to be a chiropractor. It can just be a business owner, male or female. I'm probably typically more drawn to females that have a powerful energy about them, because I look up to that and I admire that a lot. Someone that loves what they do and has balance in their life, and really, really successful what they do and has balance in their life. Successful can look at as monetary, as self-happiness, a lot of things I think goes into success for me and what I want to be as a business owner and a chiropractor. But someone that has all that and then has the other things that I really value in my life and the equation and how to get there, I think is the people that I'm most drawn to typically in who I learn from. And a lot of times they're not chiropractors.
Right.
Because unfortunately, there are a lot of chiropractors that don't have balance in their life or don't have, yeah, it just, and Dr. Mark has great balance and we talk about it a lot. And he was great as he says it. He's like, you need a day off one day, you just tell me. Like, that's no problem. He's like, you got to do it. And he's super on point about working out still. And he's in great shape. I think almost 50. Like he sees a ton of people a week. And it's because he's so good about balance, about working out. And that's part of his balance. And he doesn't work out. Like he doesn't feel clear to serve, So I've learned a lot from his routine and he really takes it very seriously, just like ninjas. Like he treats it like a professional athlete. So it's a really important. Yeah.
How about daily practices that you have really refined and are contributing to your success at this moment?
Some sort of breathing, whether it's 49 breaths or if it's just like meditation or just a really calm breathing routine to really get grounded. Sometimes I do it at my home. Sometimes I do it at the office, depending on the morning or day. I typically do affirmations with it. Sometimes they're abundant driven. Sometimes they're energy driven. Sometimes they're just anything I'm feeling. Sometimes I'll write out like gratitudes and requests. I'll get in, a habit of doing that, and then I'll kind of change it up and just do affirmations out loud.
Can you give me an example of the requests real quick?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Please. Usually there's one. I usually do 3. It's one. Please support this person with this. Someone in my life that may be going through a hard time. Please support me with this. And sometimes it's please support me and send me 3 new patients or 5 new patients or whatever it is. Maybe it's please support me with peace through this challenging part of my health or insert challenge. Please support me with abundance for insert goal. Awesome. It's a couple different things. Yeah. Whatever. I guess it's my way of prayer in a way. And then some sort of reading, some sort of peaceful reading is just, I love reading in our house in the morning when there's no one up yet. I'm currently reading the Little Money Bible. It's great. It's a great mindset abundance book. It's awesome if you haven't read it. A chiropractic, Dr. Allison Bremner, recommended it to me. It was awesome. And I'll probably continue to read that because it's like little excerpts. You can read a page and get so much out of one page and be like, oh, I'm good. Like, that was great.
Perfect.
Yeah, like I will continue and I have a little Life West highlight, like ink pen double combo that's like amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, some sort of read, breathe, affirmation combo.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So besides
and a hot drink of some sort, like tea.
Oh, okay.
Like some sort of hot drink, hot water, lemon, tea, something like that. It's just like really comforting.
Love it. How long do you give yourself in the morning or whenever you decide to have this practice? How long does it take?
Half an hour, 40 minutes. If I'm feeling like I'm having more energy and I need less sleep, I'll give myself like 40 minutes or an hour. If I'm feeling like I need a little more sleep, I'll give myself 20, 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the Little Money Bible. Is there any other books that you enjoy gifting others or just are really drawn to?
The Subtle Art of How to Not Give a Fuck. Have you read it?
I have not read it yet. I have it on Audible. It's already paid.
It's
I've
so
listened
good.
to it some of it.
Yeah, it's so good. I've read it a couple times. I'm really in a memoir phase. I'm currently reading Michelle Obama's memoir. It's great. I was reading The Man's Search for Meaning. It's a Holocaust survivor's book. I try to not, I love like personal growth and all those books, but I'll be honest, if I read them in the night, I get like all these ideas for my business that I want to do and I don't sleep. And I rather read people's stories and like learn about them and learn about their challenges and things like that. It's way more peaceful for my mind. And then do like the growth book in the morning or in the middle of the day. Just because, like we talk about, you get too ingrained in that grind and it becomes like sympathetic in you. So I try to balance and I'm in a more phase, like a more parasympathetic phase right now.
Nice.
with people's
That's awesome.
stories and like their, ups and downs and everything in between. So, yeah.
Perfect. So that was Michelle Obama's memoir. And then is it Man's Search for Meaning?
Yeah, by Viktor Frankl.
Viktor
He's a
Frankl.
Holocaust survivor. I recently went to Israel and Poland to see Auschwitz, a concentration camp, and I am very interested in these people's stories. And this book particular is the psychology of surviving through something so challenging as a concentration camp. Not necessarily just his account, but the psychology behind it, because he is a psychologist. So yeah, I enjoy doing trying to stimulate my brain in other ways than just that business owner growth vibe, because I get real wrapped up in it, and I've learned it's not the best balance for me.
Right. I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
I think I was
get
very
it.
unbalanced all the way through school.
Yeah, and it's easy when you're in the bubble, but now
Yeah.
with someone who's not a chiropractor, which is actually really great, like, there's, you got to know what other shit to talk about.
Right. Exactly.
So,
How about, so this might just lead right into this question about just recuperation strategies. How have those evolved over time for you, and
yeah,
most effective that you found?
sleep is huge. Really checking in with my body. I'm really great about working out. I'm much better about working out now than I was in chiropractic school. Towards the end, I got really good about it. And then I think being with Dr. Mark all the time, like, I think it just kind of rubbed off, which I'm grateful for. I feel anxious if I don't work out, like at least 4 or 5 days a week. So, but being okay with doing restorative yoga,
Right.
that being a workout still, like, that's still movement. It's still being okay with not this like super intense adrenaline pumping workout, just like going to a hot yoga class. Maybe it's candlelit and you sweat it out and you get a really good stretch. And I think that is a big part of my recuperation mentally too. Walking. I have recently picked up walking as a pastime. And that is like, I'm lucky I live in San Diego. The weather is usually always pretty great. And walking, if you want to call it walking meditation, sometimes I listen to a podcast. Sometimes I call a friend and check in and catch up with someone, or sometimes I just walk, and it's really nice. I just be alone and still do something movement based. I've recently had a little bit of a physical challenge with my shoulder, so it's like limited my things that I can work out with, and maybe it's the universe's way of telling you to slow the fuck down, Katie. So you walk. I'm running.
I love it.
Love it. The other thing is, nutrition. Like, I'm big on clean eating, and I think it makes a big difference for the long haul. I have some other health challenges that I think play a role too with my recuperation. So sleep and just resting and being okay with not going out on a Friday or Saturday night, and that being okay has been really big. And then reading, like, that's really peaceful and feels peaceful to me, and part of the kind of like shift down, as I call it, in the evening. Because it's hard. I never had this problem when I was in school, but in school, I guess for me, my I don't know, I guess my self-worth, like, you get home, you just want to go to bed, you're so exhausted. I never had like challenges falling asleep in school, but being a business owner, I've had more challenges, like much more, because your brain never turns off, your to-do list never goes away.
Right.
So reading like before bed, or having like a routine, like we usually have hot tea. Lindsay and I, like, we try not to watch like TV or anything. Maybe we'll watch like an episode of something, but then like that hour before bed, we're not on screens, like on my phone. That's another big one. Being on my phone. Oh my gosh. That'll like send me on a bender for 3 hours. I won't be checking social media, texting. Like, I've gotten in the habit, and two, getting in the habit of being present with my partner, setting my phone when I get home for the night and not looking at it to the next morning. And we use like an alarm, old-fashioned alarm clock in the room.
Love it.
I go to set my alarm and I'm like, oh, I have a text. Who is it? And you just like go down the rabbit hole. Like, it's just bad.
It is.
I'm just like, oh no, don't get that thing away from me.
The boundaries around the phone and social media are huge. I was just realizing that the other night. I was like trying to cook, and then my roommates were in the kitchen, and then I was like kind of on my phone. I'm like, I'm not doing anything fully present. I'm not really like in the moment with whoever I'm talking to on the phone, and I'm not cooking and not enjoying that process. And then whoever I'm talking to in the kitchen, I'm like, they're getting a fragmented version of me, every one of them. So I'm just like, all right. So now I'm doing something similar. It's just like having set times where I check the phone and just respond to everybody at once, and then put it down.
There's a guy who's a friend of a friend, like he's really big on social media, but he talks about that. Like he answers all his messages at like set times in the day, and you see text there, it's fine. You get back to him when you can. Like you don't need to text them right then. And the other thing too, I realize is I haven't been posting a lot of, I haven't been scrolling like on social media much. I just post and I get off it because I realized scrolling was creating like negative feedback loops for me. I'm not doing enough, whether it's like negative about like whatever, whether it's like, something about me personally or my business or all of the above intermixed together. And then you go down the rabbit hole of like a entrepreneur, and then you're like, oh, I want to like go speak to this. I want to go to this seminar. Oh, let me look up flights. Let me text someone, see if they want to go with me. Like, it's just too much. So I'm like not scrolling and only posting. That's my new 2019 mantra. Not scrolling, only posting.
Perfect. This has been awesome, Katie. Where can our listeners reach out to you? I know you mentioned Instagram. Is that the best way that you like to connect with people?
Yes. So to touch on that, not scrolling, answering messages, only posting. I will reply to messages.
As we talk about this, yeah.
Yes. I would say probably Instagram is the best way. My email too is great if you want like a longer response to things. It's drkatie@drkatieschlein.com. drkatieschlein.com is my website. So you could email me directly if you want, if there's like a couple questions. There's a couple chiropractors in school that I met down the road that I would reach out to every now and then with questions, and we go back and forth on email. So that's like a great way, or on Instagram directly.
Perfect. So it was Dr. Katie at
drkatieschlein.com.
Okay. And then the website's just drkatieschlein.com.
Correct. Yep.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. All right, Katie, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you. You're real, you're raw, you're all about just, telling it how it is and being really open with your experience, and I just really appreciate that. Definitely, gives me the opportunity and the privilege to do the same, and you've always done that for me, and I think our listeners are going to really feel that same type of vibe, so I'm really grateful for your time, and thank you so much for giving back.
Thank you. And I am grateful. I can tell this is something you're passionate about. You put a lot of intention behind the questions, and I know you prepare and you have a whole, routine that you do, and what you're doing, to spread support and community in chiropractic, I think is beautiful. And I'm honored to be on this. I remember the day that you started this and talked about it, and all the people that were on it before, were people I look up to. So I'm really, really honored that you asked me. So thank you so much. And I love you.
I love you too, Katie. Is there any final words or, questions to, give our audience to think about, or just words you want to leave them with as they continue on their journey? We got some are still in school and some are getting out of school and into practice now. It's kind of a wide range, but.
Yeah. Be okay with doing something for you. There'll always be another practice member, and don't give a fuck about what people think.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Katie.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Ray.
All right, TAC listeners, if you enjoy this one, head over to iTunes or Stitcher so you can subscribe to the podcast and get an automatic download of our newest episode each and every week. While you're at it, we would love a review, a comment, a rating, anything that will allow us to reach more docs and more students and continue to raise the bar in chiropractic performance training. If you haven't yet checked out the artfulchiropractor.com, you can do that for show notes for this episode and previous ones, along with any of the resources that our docs are dropping. And if you haven't yet checked out the Kairos Training Culture Community Facebook page, you have to get there, send a request with a message of who you are and why you want to be a part of the group, because there are so many amazing golden nuggets that are being dropped every single day that are elevating the chiropractic performance game. So with that, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your week as always, and until next time, peace.